Hello and welcome to Tarot Tidbits. I was finally able to get my review about the Alexander Daniloff tarot out this morning, and I really wanted a YouTube video to go along with it. This is actually the 2014 edition. There were two others before that. The first one being in 2010, just the 22 majors, and it's out of print now. I think he did come out with another one as far as the 22 majors. But he came out with the deck in its entirety in 2012. There was 450 copies, all numbered and signed. And unfortunately, I missed my window of opportunity, but was fortunate enough to acquire a deck in 2014 when he re-released it. This is not a numbered or signed deck, which would have been nice, but on the other hand, it actually takes a little bit of pressure off. I just love this deck so much that I will probably use it until it falls apart in my hands. And I think that if it had been a numbered and signed edition, this probably wouldn't be the case. I would have to keep it on the shelf and not play with it and touch it as much as I intend to with this deck. I can honestly say that this deck is probably the most beautiful deck I have ever seen. And I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. The deck actually comes with just a simple box, which opens completely up in the back. It also comes with 3 extra cards. He actually offers 2 variants of the strength and the justice cards, so you can actually pick which numerical position you wish to place the card in the deck, which I thought was really thoughtful of him. And while it would not have been a deal breaker for me, I do appreciate having the option. It's like having my cake and eat it too. So that was really lovely. The other thing is that it comes with this wild card. I think it might just be an extra card. I'm not sure. I will not be using this in my readings. I'm actually going to set it aside with the other 2 extra cards for storage. The deck does not come with a booklet, which again, as I've mentioned before, this is really a non-issue for me. With just a couple exceptions, I probably wouldn't have used the booklet anyway. I probably wouldn't have looked at it. The back design, as you can see, absolutely stunning. I've yet to have someone walk by and not notice it on my table. It's so pretty. I don't know how well it's going to actually show up in the video. There we go. See how pretty that is? Just beautiful. I did notice that in comparison, the 2012 version, the backs are very different. A lot more intricate. The colors are more red and there's no reds in this one. And while the 2012 backs are extremely beautiful, I think I might actually prefer the backs in the 2014 edition. So yeah, and as you can tell, the deck is actually longer than your standard tarot deck. I measured it, and it actually it's in length. It's close to 5.5 inches, making it a little bit challenging to shuffle, but that's just to begin with. I think you can get used to it pretty quickly. And I would rather have an extra long tarot deck with amazing artwork than sacrifice the artwork for the length. So the cardstock is quality cardstock. It's delicate and thin with a really nice a smooth matte finish. Really nice to the touch, and the cards actually slip in the hands really well. I like the way they slide and feel, which will make it easier to shuffle. I did take the liberty of rounding the corners. This is actually the first time I've ever done this, and I think they turned out pretty well. But this is just an aesthetic choice, and also practical. I prefer rounded corners, and I wanted to avoid the dinged up corners that would have inevitably happened with the straight edge corners that the deck originally came with. The deck itself is, of course, everything that I look for in a tarot deck. I'm very much attracted to antiquated um, looking decks. I like the traditional old fashioned um, tarot decks, and so this is that and more. This deck is actually layered with astrological and elemental symbolism. So yeah, it's like I can have a beautiful deck that I am particularly drawn to, along with the amazing symbolism that I actually look for in a deck. So yeah, this is like I got the best of both worlds with this deck. The major arcana is, if you'll notice, it's actually, because this deck was created in Italy, is completely in Italian. This is not an issue for me. In fact, if anything, I think it adds to the authenticity and the overall charm of the deck. So just really quick, I'm going to go through, I don't think I'm going to go through the entire deck, but I just wanted to show you the majors really quick. We've got the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess. There really isn't a card in this deck that I just don't like. I mean, so far, I love everything about this deck. The Emperor. I think as a tarot reader, I think we're always looking for that perfect deck, and this might be that perfect deck for me. The Lovers, the Chariot, Strength. Mine is at 8. Just a preference. The Hermit. I'm worried that my webcam is just not going to do this deck justice. The Wheel of Fortune, Justice, the Hangman, Death, Temperance, let's see. The Devil might be the scariest devil ever if it wasn't for the fact that he reminds me of the Beast from Disney's Beauty and the Beast. I don't think he's supposed to, but that's who he reminds me of. I think it's his eyes. I don't know. The Tower, the Star, so pretty. La Luna, the Moon. The Sun, Judgment, and the World. As far as the minor cards go, they actually don't have any titles at all. Again, this isn't really a problem for me. Usually I like decks that don't have titles or keywords, specifically keywords on the cards. And it's not really hard to tell with the numbered cards what the cards are. I mean, you're not going to really have a problem. The elements are on there to see. So the aces are especially wonderful in this deck. And then I just wanted to show you the difference as far as, or where I was a little bit baffled to begin with, as far as the court cards go. As far as, I mean, because there's no titles on here, and because they're so similar in their appearance, it is a little bit confusing, or at least it was for me when I was trying to see the differences between them, and trying to identify them in a reading. So I do recommend looking over the court cards, especially the court cards, before you lay them out for divination, if you want to recognize them from the start. I think it's a good idea to go through this deck from beginning to end, through every single deck before you actually lay out the cards, or the court cards might actually be confusing. The pages, though, if you'll notice, they all present flags. And the knights, which are really what gets confusing here, they're very similar in appearance, not completely, but unless you actually look at them, it's easy to get them confused. I think because in a lot of decks, knights don't have facial hair, and in this deck, they do. And I think that if they didn't, it would be easier to identify. I mean, they don't all do, but for instance, this one does. And but the main thing to look for with the knights, and it's different than the kings, is that they actually are holding the symbol for their element, and they all have a shield down at the bottom of the card representing their element. You can see. The queens all have a crown above them and a symbol of their element below. Let me see. Queen of Cups. Let's see that. She's pretty wonderful. The Queen of Swords. I actually really like her, even though she looks like she will chop your head off. I don't know, maybe that is why I like her. I think the Queen of Wands and the Queen of Pentacles might be my favorites as far as the court cards go. I mean, overall, just wonderful. As you can see, that the kings, they have a symbol of their element down below, but they all have castles behind them. There's other differences as well, but those are the ones that stand out the most. So that's how you can tell the difference between the kings and the knights just right off the bat. The kings have castles behind them, the knights do not. So as you can see, the deck strongly follows the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. And so it's pretty easy to read. I mean, outside of the differences that I just mentioned, you shouldn't have a problem with it. Again, this deck for me is everything that I look for in a deck, aesthetically and academically. So I'm really happy with it. And plan to use it as much as I possibly can. I think tarot scholars will absolutely appreciate the deeper occult meanings in this deck, but I can also recommend this deck for readers at any level. If anything, I think that they will find it especially enriching. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my my blog on Tarot Tidbits, and yeah, thanks again. Till next time.